Dear friends, today I would like to discuss regarding the history of Indian writing in English, because it is one of the important aspects of English literature. As we know very well, this part of literature has become so prominent and important for the readers, for the students, that it creates a new curiosity and it gives a new kind of thinking to the coming generation. In fact, self-portrayal has become an integral part of Indian culture, and we the Indians equally shares this culture universally, and it has become praiseworthy in the eye of the intelligentsia class. Today I want to give some inputs how to understand the journey of Indian writing in English in India especially. Perhaps Indian writing in English takes its birth as per history. The first novelist, who is popularly known as Bankim Chandra Chatterjee from Bengal. He was the first novelist who wrote a novel, namely Rajmohan's Wife, in which he stated or described the life of a native prince, and after that the journey started in its way, in a very particular way, if it is observed, if it is seen, or it can be understood in a very stepwise, then we have to see the novels, the literary portions, the literatures. It is found in our country since time immemorial. Further, I want to give an sketch of the history of Indian writing in English. The different writers, critics, and lovers of literature have given their opinion in their own way. Therefore, it has been divided into two divisions, the primary and secondary. In the primary, or we can say in the early years, we have seen some writers have influenced only because of Gandhi and their works. And after that, or after the death of Gandhiji, so many writers came on Indian soil and they began to write about the Indians, the people, the land, and its culture as a whole. It is an undoubted fact. At the very outset of Indian writing in English, K.R. Srinivas Iyengar, who became the champion, who gave a new term which is known as Indian writing in English. Before Indian writing in English we were using two important terms, and it was known as Indo-Anglian or Anglo-Indian. There is a slight difference between the two terms. Indo-Anglian means the writers who are basically from India and wrote about Indianness and Indian theme in English. They are known as Indian writing, or they are called the Indo-Anglian writers. But Anglo-Indian, those who are not purely by birth or by sex, they are one, either mother or father, any one of them may be either Indian and another will be foreigner. They are called Anglo-Indian writers. But their writings, the way of writing, the theme will be, as well as we can say these are the same. Well, it is essential to discuss the beginning of English in India by the Indian writers. The pioneers, they are known as Mulk Raj Anand, Raja Rao, R.K. Narayan and Bhavani Bhattacharya, and so on. But these three important writers, novelists, they have given a new mode of writing in English in Indian way. That is why we can say, and we are proud of them, that their writings are really not only interesting but full of impetus and inspiration. If I discuss the writing, the ethics, the philosophy of Mulk Raj Anand, he was always busy to expose the social evils which is prevailing in our society, and through literature he would like to give a new sense so that everybody can realize and the evil can be removed as a whole. The next, Raja Rao, he was always in search of spiritual regeneration. That is why he says in so many novels that you should not live in the dark system, and it can be removed through the spirituality. If we see his one important novel which is known as Kanthapura, here we find that this is totally based on the Gandhian philosophy, and he was deeply influenced to write this novel about the Indian and its patience. The history of Indian writing in English further develops. In its way, the third important writer, who is popularly known as R.K. Narayan, he was an average writer, but he was really a real natural writer, and who has written so many novels and short stories, and all literary works of this novelist has become so prominent that Government of India has recommended his name, that he became the honorable member of the Rajya Sabha only because of his literary works. His writings tells the real story of the Indianness the people, maximum characters have been taken from the middle class or the rural India, and he has represented the real thinking, the real character, the real sins, as well as his real sense of responsibility to the India, especially the rural India. So R.K. Narayan, a man of real sense, a man of real writer, a man of real creator, who has created a new world, and his real writing comes into maturity when he published his first novel, which is known as Swami and Friends. It was published in the year of 1935, and thereafter several novels have been written by him, and in the year of 1958 he has given one more writing which is known as The Guide. Guide has become so important and interesting that everybody has gone through, and he has arrested the mind of the readers not only in India but abroad too. Therefore, he was getting so many popularity, and only because of his popularity, his novels, his short stories are included in almost all the universities, not only in India but throughout the whole world. At last but no least, I would like to mention some of the important women novelists too. And I am deeply impressed by the writing of Anita Desai and Meenakshi Mukherjee. They have also included or added a new chapter in the history of Indian novel, because their writings, or we can say they are fighting for the liberation of women, because women are also contributed to English literature to a great extent, and we cannot forget their contribution and their way of writing, because it is also the inspiration for us. His writings are important, as for example, In Custody and Cry the Peacock and The Clear Light of the Day. These are the important writings, novels which was written and presented by Anita Desai. Meenakshi Mukherjee, she is also one of the major contributor to English novel, especially Indian writing in English, and her one of the important writings which is known as Twice Born Fiction. That means how fiction was born again in India, and that is why she told that twice born fiction. And it is one of the important terminology which gives a new way of thinking. With these few words, I would like to conclude my small lecture for the greater interest of the students as a whole. Thank you very much.